What is the true nature of the Winter Queen? How exactly is she Elune's sister? For what purpose was she installed to the Afterlife machine? And are the Shadowlands even the true realms of death? Welcome, heroes. My name is Xaxus, covering for our still MIA Knowledge Goblin. And today, we're touching on a mystery that challenges all that we think we know about the Winter Queen, Elune, and the Eternal Ones. Sprawling into a deceptively simple question: what is the true nature of death in the Shadowlands? Our quest for answers will take us across the astral planes of the Twisting Nether to contemplating the calcified blue soul crystals of an ancient troll legend. Along the way, we'll connect the dots between Naaru's souls, the Winter Queen's mysterious cosmic spirit, and a conspiracy to imprison life itself in the so-called realm of death. Firstly, do Naaru have souls? Back in Legion, when we were aiding the Prime Naaru Xera to revive Illidan's Stormrage, it would seem that she is able to communicate through a quote, astral presence to the player character, even though her physical form is disassembled at the time. This distinction of physical and astral presence indicates that the Naaru, at least a Prime Naaru, does essentially possess what we would consider a soul, which she calls her astral presence. But why bother with the roundabout phrasing? This may be a clue not only to how the Naaru think, but to what a soul is and where it comes from. Because in Warcraft, the primary astral dimension that we deal with is the Twisting Nether. The Nether is usually painted as a realm of instability and demonic influence, where evil lurks in uncounted forms. It is the realm that we know demon souls return to when slain, where their spirit regenerates and prepares to invade reality once again. Now allow me to draw a comparison. Ardenweald and the Emerald Dream are realms where wild souls return to when slain, where their spirit regenerates and prepares to enter reality once again. Curious how similar these systems of renewal are, no? But what if it's no coincidence? After all, druids are known for dealing in astral magics, so the nature of the Emerald Dream being that of an astral plane checks out. And of course, a shaman's astral recall spell yanks the caster through the Twisting Nether as a means of transportation. So what's the common denominator between druidism and shamanism in this regard? Spirit. If Draenei souls can be used by dark shamans and warlocks to power a portal through the Nether to another world, what does this tell us about the Twisting Nether and the key resources it deals in? When the player character's consciousness is projected to Xera's astral presence in the Great Dark Beyond, does it stand to reason that our soul was yanked through the astral plane to her soul? Xera's astral presence functions independently of her disassembled physical form, and this distinction between corporeal and incorporeal existence is more than semantics, it's the very definition of what we call a soul. The Naaru may label it an astral presence to differentiate themselves from mortal souls they work with or consume, but the function is undeniably parallel. And if Naaru souls can exist beyond their bodies, can they also inhabit new vessels? This is where I bring in Xal'atath. We know that she's not an old god because of Illyria's confirmation, and I suspect that she may have in fact been some type of dark or void Naaru before her spirit was trapped inside the blade of the Black Empire. You can check out the video on my channel for more clarification there. And if we guess that Xal'atath might be a Naaru based on her subtle visual cues and, more importantly, her behavior and functions, then allow me to take things a step further and ask you, what about the Winter Queen? If Xal'atath is revealed to be a disembodied Naaru spirit, then suddenly a precedent is set for us to explore whether or not this has happened before. So let's roll it back to Shadowlands and ask, what's the deal with the Eternal Ones and their so-called cosmic spirits? The dungeon journal profile for the prototype Pantheon boss fight in the Sepulchre of the First Ones reads as follows, quote, "Bereft of the cosmic spirits of the Eternal Ones, these incomplete host bodies can only carry out their base directives without mercy or compassion. So, just what are these cosmic spirits? Were they created or captured? And is there anything special about an Eternal One in the first place? For this answer, we can look to Pelagos, a simple mortal that we meet in Bastion and doesn't even qualify as a proper Kyrian. Yet, by the end of Shadowlands, our shy friend has ascended to the rank of Eternal One as the new Arbiter. If plain old Pelagos can do this, then why do we assume that beings like Denathrius, the Archon, the Primus, and the Winter Queen as the Pantheon of Death are such high-level cosmic characters? What if, like Pelagos, they actually share much humbler origins? Focusing on the Winter Queen, her Automa vessel is named the Prototype of Renewal, and casts a few abilities aligned with Arcane, Nature, and Anima. On the other hand, the real Winter Queen, presumably a vessel that does contain her cosmic spirit, only casts one ability, Cosmic Starfall. Starfall is traditionally a druid spell, but it's inspired by Tyrande Whisperwind's hero ability in Warcraft 3, and Tyrande, a priestess of the moon, is no druid. There are exceptions though, and in classic WoW, Night Elf priests had a unique racial class ability named Starshards, which is effectively Starfall for priests. The thread that connects these Night Elf priests and druids to stars is Elune, supposed sister to the Winter Queen. You see, Elune isn't just a goddess tied to life, as she seems to be a focus in multiple cosmic domains. From the Emerald Dream and Ardenweald cycle to the divine light channeled by her Sisterhood priestesses, her influence is felt across life, spirit, and light. The two most mysterious entities in her orbit are the Naaru and the Winter Queen. The Winter Queen's visual flair offers subtle visual and behavioral nods to a Naaru identity. The way her antlers curve and branch like silhouettes of Naaru eye sockets, giving her an almost crystalline symmetry. Her long draping moth wings are dotted with eye shapes and spread in a way reminiscent of Naaru's spinning appendages. The Winter Queen's voice, booming and somber, carries a divine gravitas not unlike Xera. And even her domain of watching over dreaming spirits might mirror how Naaru commune with mortals through their dreams. So given that the Winter Queen is presented as a nature goddess, it's not that surprising or unusual that she's using an astral spell traditionally related with balanced druids. But it's hard for me not to question how a motif of stars, the subject of astrology and astronomy, might relate the Winter Queen's stellar spellcasting and cosmic spirit to the astral presence of Naaru like Xera, or an astral plane like the Twisting Nether. While Naaru are not known to cast stellar or astral-themed offensive spells, further research shows that Holy Naaru are not really known for having any offensive abilities, outside of Zorali's anguished cries in Revendreth. But the origins of the Naaru may well tie to the stars themselves. Chronicle tells us, quote, "The birth of the cosmos also flung shards of light throughout reality, and how, occasionally, clouds of fractured light gathered and gave shape to beings of far greater power, of far greater potential, those being the Naaru and Titans." I've argued before that this line about shards of light is about the closest thing to a description for what stars are in the Warcraft universe, especially when paired with that Night Elf priest racial named Starshards. By this definition, it sounds like the Naaru's physical form may be pieces of these shards of light. Whether they were forged by orderly hands or a natural phenomenon is still up for debate. As well, you may remember in Legion when Archmage Khadgar successfully activated the heart of the Prime Naaru, using the Titan relic, the Tears of Elune. As he tells us, he found a clue indicating that the Naaru may have been created by Elune during the Great Ordering of Light and Shadow. Even the prophet Velen suggested that the light of Elune reminded him of a powerful Naaru. So, if the Winter Queen is a sister of Elune, maybe it's not too far-fetched to consider a Naaru as her original form after all. In Shadowlands, the Primus tells us, quote, "The Winter Queen is bound to her counterpart in the realms of life." And many have taken this to mean that Elune is this counterpart, bound somewhere within the Emerald Dream. While I'm not so sure of this two-way binding myself, one could speculate that both the Winter Queen and another Naaru, or even Elune herself, are originally light-based Naaru-like entities who have been bound into servitude by the Makers, forced to maintain and protect life within the Afterlife. And it begs the question, is Shadowlands death magic even real death? Or is it the spirit of life, preserved eternally, undying and undecaying, protected from the end of all things, and used as fuel in the meantime? Well, that's a whole can of worms unto itself. So, as we wrap up, allow me to present one final piece of this Naaru and Winter Queen puzzle. The new cosmetic offhand item, Sermons of the Naaru, was added in patch 11.05 and is sold by the Anniversary vendors. This tome, at first druidic in appearance with its wooden cover and leafy corners, interestingly enough has a bright sigil of a blue Naaru on it, with deeper blue gems set into the frame. Considering the mission of the Naaru that we've seen in-game and heard about in Chronicle, that is, to protect and nurture life wherever they found it, it's no surprise again that we might find them involved in the lighter sides of druidic practice. But is this book perhaps telling us more? Let's talk about Blue Naaru and Holy Blue Crystals for a minute. In Stranglethorn Vale, there is an item called the First Troll Legend, which tells us of a holy blue crystal protecting the eternal spirits of their fallen brethren. Titled A Moon Over the Vale, the legend reads, quote, "A moon over the vale shines, casting its glow upon the jungle, where proud warriors heed the call to defend our nation and sacred grounds. A moon over the vale shines, far above the cries of battle, where blood is spilled of foe and comrade alike. And when our brethren pass into the realms beyond the known, the soul spirit hardens deep beneath the veil. And when our brethren pass into the mountain's temple, we shall protect their eternal spirit, encased within the holy blue crystal." So what is this blue crystal? What is the mountain's temple? And how fascinating is it that the soul spirit is described to harden much like a soul gem? The legend reads in a way as if one of the moons is closer and inspires the warriors, while one stays afar and bleakly sees the bloodshed on both sides. But which is which? Azeroth's moons are the White Lady and the Blue Child. And considering that this holy blue crystal is given significance alongside a moon, I'd be willing to bet that it's the Blue Child that correlates to the Troll's afterlife domain, referred to as the Mountain's Temple, which we may know as the Other Side, seen in Ardenweld, and is a subsection of the Winter Queen's domain. Some of Azeroth's first recorded followers of Elune were actually dark trolls, who crept from the jungle thickets and found the Well of Eternity, communing with the goddess of the moon who they believed slept within the well. Though we might compare these blue crystals to a relic like the Tears of Elune, they may not necessarily be of the moon's origin. Because also found in Stranglethorn Vale, there's a cave called Crystal Vein Mine. Here, basilisks eat the crystals, and a quest has the player gather items called Singing Blue Crystal. Could it be that the ancient trolls had access to something, or somewhere, from within these caves that we fail to perceive today? Khazalgar's Haranir and their mystical hidden homeland certainly comes to mind, with its potential links to the astral nature of the Emerald Dream. So what does this have to do with Naaru? Recently, we've seen Titan records indicating that there are crystals within Azeroth claimed to be the calcified essence of the world soul, and this mirrors the Troll's legend of the soul spirit hardening into the earth. While I don't believe that Beledar is necessarily made of the same crystal substance that the Arathi's keyflames are, it is curious that there is a giant, seemingly Naaru-aligned temple ship jammed into the mountainous deep. And Naaru are no strangers to dealing in souls and spirits after all. It seems to me that Beledar's arrival likely wounded the world, seeping out its spirit-filled lifeblood and crystallizing, as Titan blood often does in the few examples we've seen. These calcified chunks of the world soul's essence have been utilized and shaped for many purposes by the Titan Forged and Arathi alike, as we see many little gold crystal torches across Khazalgar built by the Earthen. The Beacon of Tyrhold also comes to mind. The correlation between the Arathi Keyflames, Azurite, and Beledar may be explained by the understanding provided by the Troll's legend of soul spirit hardening into crystals, and give us a sly clue to how the first shards of light at the beginning of the cosmos may have come to be. Like with all of the Shadowlands, the Winter Queen is more than meets the eye. And you might be asking, if the Winter Queen has a Naaru soul, why isn't she casting holy or light magic spells? The answer to this goes deep into how much of a construct the Realms of Death truly are, and what magics are even being used there. Anima, the so-called death magic we deal with in Shadowlands, is spirit, mana, energy reaped by a machine, life as fuel for an engine. True forms of death, like decay and destruction, are entirely shunned within the Shadowlands. What we see instead may just be spirit magic, a preservation and manipulation of life essence, and the very opposite of death's natural entropy. The death magic of the Shadowlands doesn't destroy, it repurposes. This so-called realm of death may not be about real death at all. It's about spirit, locked in perpetual, eternal life. What if the Winter Queen, this sister of Elune, is no true goddess of death after all? Her stellar spellcasting, methods used within her astral realm, and her role in the renewal of wild souls reveal her intentions as a Naaru agent, nurturing life and the spirits that spring from it. Whether she was a shard of Elune herself or shaped by the Makers as a servant to the undying cycle of life, the Winter Queen may not embody the shadow of mortality, but instead is a warden over life within the afterlife, preserving spirit in a prison of Order's design. Because, as they tell us, life is chaos, and it must be controlled. Heroes, this is just the beginning of a paradigm-shifting theory that I'm working on in collaboration with fellow Warcraft enthusiast, Pyromancer, as we delve deeper into the origins of life itself. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Knowledge Wars, where the truth isn't just out there, it's polymorphed in layers of anima shrouds and titan machinery. Remember, you are the resistance to the Maker's soul matrix. Now, we have a goblin to save.